High leverage traders continue to get wrecked and liquidated in the crypto markets as most of the market is still pulling back. So we'll talk about what that means over the medium to high time frame in today's show. We'll also do a massive series of altcoin requests, so please do get those ready. We'll have a look at the daily time frames to just get some perspective of where things are at, and we'll look at the stock market as well. So smash the like button, hit the bell notification, and subscribe to the channel. Some of the biggest drawdowns, at least on the hourly, has been FARTCOIN, but I see it is finding a little bit of support. We'll bring that up as well in today's show because it is coming into a very, very, very key zone, right? One of the coins that was actually outperforming for most of the leg up that Bitcoin had over the last couple of weeks to months. And therefore, the question is, if you do put in a bounce, will this be one of the top performers once again? So if we look at the stock market over here, yesterday we spoke about specifically a short squeeze within the stock market as prices do grind towards these highs over here. And that increases the chances that you will see an explosive move towards the upside. But crypto and Bitcoin doing something different to what the stock market is, with crypto and Bitcoin still putting in those pullbacks, right? So we spoke about being cautiously bullish as long as Bitcoin is unable to break this downsloping trend line over here with the RSI mark, specifically with the orange line. Until you can break that, and you can see the high was essentially set exactly at that rejective zone over there. So if we go into Bitcoin and we dive into this, it's really being ruled by this one line, right? This one line was the value area high previously of the overall trading range, and that comes in at 106,145. And you can see you've had candles that have failed to close above there. So rejective, and deviation back below rejective, back testing into that key level. And I even took it one step further earlier this week where I inverted the chart and asked you, would you be long or short on this? And I think it looked like a very, very easy long when inverted, right? So currently putting in the pullback, remember the zones of interest is going to be just below that sub $100,000 mark, which is also lining up with the high volume points of control. So you can see this is what's deemed fair value for Bitcoin within this overall trading range over the last couple of months, set from about November, where we had this markup and move up and we started to consolidate. Generally speaking, that is where the market deems fair value at about $97,000, which is where you would expect if price does come back into that zone to start to put in a little bit of support and potential bounces. But if you lose that, you could be going in for mass distribution all the way back down to the bottom of the trading range, which I know it doesn't feel possible right now, but crazier things have happened, right? So when we look at this was about 2 weeks ago, I brought up the possibility of a Wyckoff distribution schematic, which we're going to revisit right now. We said we need a bit more information to unfold over here in order to determine exactly what's going on. So you had essentially, again, the high rejection, double top over there, price came in for potential triple top and deviated. Now, you can see if you look at the volume over here, the volume has been mostly declining, right? So low volume while price rallies up. You can literally see the origin of the move over here. You sold off into high volume, and then as price rallied up over here, the volume did nothing but drop off, barring one candle over here, which was the candle that broke price up towards that $112,000, $113,000 region, right? And then as per the Wyckoff distribution schematic, when we look at the various different phases, what you're looking for is the back test into the demand zone, right? To see if there is going to be selling pressure that kicks in over there. So if we go over here, phase C, which is what we're hunting out right now, is a potential phase C in that overall trading range. And what does it say? A key turning point where the market tests the remaining demand, right? The upthrust after distribution, which would essentially be this period that occurred on that high volume candle over there. So upthrust after distribution would be over there. And you can see over there, what does it say after that? It traps the buyers before the market begins its downtrend. The test, in inverted commas, following the upthrust after distribution does what? It checks the demand at the high price levels, and it often occurs on what? Lower volume, suggesting the absence of strong demand. So let's see, let's hunt this out. After the upthrust, after distribution, which is the big spike up that I just showed you over here, did you get a what? A test in inverted commas over there? Following that, checking the demand, and often occurring on low volume. So we need to see, did this occur on low volume? Did you test the demand zone? And the answer is absolutely yes. That is your test, right? There it is. You can see price coming up. You've tested the demand zone and you've rejected on what? Even lower volume than what you previously saw. The volume is much, much lower than what happened after the upthrust, after distribution. So therefore, there is a real possibility that you put in a deeper pullback. Now, of course, we spoke about yesterday how this is a tough environment because it's really anyone's game. We're waiting to see who's going to take over in the tug of war between the bulls and the bears. And whenever you're at a major inflection point in the market, at an extremity of either the range high or the range low, at a key support or key resistance level, it is anyone's game in that point in time. And we're waiting to see who's going to lead the directional bias for the next major move. Now, all we can work with is as long as you're below the yellow line over here, it's at least bearish. You expect that price is probably going to come down to the next key support, which is 97,440. If it does get back above this key level, great, then we can look at continuation of the trend. But right now, you're at a pretty clear level in terms of a trend that did break, right? Now, could you get another upthrust? Could you get another one like this, something like this? Absolutely, you could still consider that. If you do see something like that, that could be a more extended upthrust after distribution higher than this one over here. That is still in the realm of possibilities, but I would expect that even so, if you do get something like that, you'll struggle to break this downsloping RSI, right? So we need to keep an eye on that. All of this happening on what low volume? Let's just look up over here. This is what your distribution schematic looks like. Visually, it's not always going to match one for one visually, but it's very, very important that you look at what happens underneath in the descriptive, at least message over there of what happens within those phases. So we're hunting out for phase C. This is why I say you got to be really careful, because if you do actually confirm this as a Wyckoff distribution and you move into phase D, you can see you can very quickly find yourself all the way back at the bottom of the range low, and then possibly even break into phase E, which will be expansion below that range low. So I'm not that bearish. I'm not that bearish yet, right? Let's just leave it at that. Right now, we're just saying very, very simple. Let's not misconstrue the words over here. Slightly bearish below the yellow line, slightly bullish above the yellow line, and nothing else in between, right? We're looking for major support. So volume still coming down. This has been one of the warning signs, the lifeblood of the market, lower lows and lower highs. We put in one high low, one high high, and now basically you want to see if this can turn that corner. That's why it's an inflection point in the market, because if new volume does come in and some sort of a news-driven event does actually pump price, well, then you can quickly see price reclaim the yellow, and then we can start to cross this out and negate this. If you want to know what happens next, again, well, there's phase D, right? That's what you're going to be looking for next. That is the last opportunity for professional interests to sell their remaining long position, right? We haven't got to that phase yet. So it's still early days. So still in the short position over here on Bitcoin, you can see the compression occurring between the 9 and 18 exponential moving average, which I outlined to you yesterday. The 9 is about to cross below the 18, which tends to govern those moves towards the downside, same way as it governs the moves towards the upside, right? Once you reclaimed over here and you started to get the bullish cross between the yellow and the pink, well, what happened to price? Of course, it marked all the way up. And the same thing happened before when it went towards the downside, right? Price compressing into there, leads into a big drop, leads into a big pump, tests the death cross over there, and governs the move the rest of the way down. One thing that you do have going on over here that's at least in the bull's favor is the RSI on the daily testing that 50 level. Now, we've seen a lot of tests around that zone where a lot of the major lows have occurred. So we'll keep an eye on this to see if bulls are going to strike back. Right now, a massive tug of war between the two, but you have broken that trend, which we spoke about. And based on this, I mean, you can see it's literally within spitting distance to get to the pink box over here, which is going to be the first area of major support. But remember, the more times you test a level, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, this will be coming in for the 5th test, the higher the chances are of breaking that. So it's only about 1.3% away. If you start to take out that low, that can quickly accelerate down towards those low targets, which is going to be the main point of control as per the volume, right? Around that 97K, you can quickly see a sweep over there, which unfortunately means that there's going to be another mass liquidation over here. You can see $1.3 million down. Liquidation price is just under $104,000, which you can see again is only $505 away from liquidating this hyperliquid whale. And when that does happen, I would also be watching over here on the hourly time frame, looking at Bitcoin's funding to see if you can put in a little bit of negative funding over there, right? A lot of the negative funding leads to those range low bottoms. You don't just blindly buy as soon as you see that, but you can start to hunt for potential bounce zones on the low time frame if Bitcoin does actually do that. So we'll watch for that. If we look at the deltas, which have been dropped over here in the Discord, not to confuse anyone, what are the deltas? The deltas simply just show what is the positioning of most people on these retail traded exchanges exchanges like Bybit, Binance, etc. We use a whole aggregate amount. And what it shows over here is slightly positive on BTC, very positive on Ethereum, meaning market participants are long on Ethereum right now as it currently stands. And it has been one of the top performers, right? So if the market can hold up and break out, I stand by what I've said for weeks and weeks and weeks, now months actually, Ethereum will probably be the top performer. If the market pulls back and Ethereum drops hard, you're looking at 2,200 for ETH is going to be a good buy the dip zone, right? If we look at Solana, negative funding over there, Sui, negative funding, Sonic, negative funding, and Popcat, also negative funding over there, which shows that most of the market participants on these coins are running shorts. Now, remember, looking at these deltas is very, very useful when the market is choppy and caught within a range. When in a trending move, it's not as useful, right? So we'll continue to monitor this. If you want to dive deeper into these things, right? In Whale Room, we have a couple of new sections. Well, one section is quant flow, right? If you want to look at what's actually happening, from a quant data perspective, as well as looking at all the different flows like CBDs, etc., XO charts, all of these things that show you on a micro level what's happening in terms of traders opening and closing longs and shorts. Well, this is the sector to do that, right? For the rest of you, if you're looking for more information and you want your daily bread, here's an example of trading non-crypto related markets. We have a trader purely dedicated to NASDAQ, gold, and the S&P 500. You can see weekly profits, 1,670. The way that we run this is we actually, when you're in this section over here, we do prop firm challenges, right? So you pay a very, very small amount. He'll take you through the prop firm challenge, help you to pass the challenge, and then you use the funded money to basically make your daily bread over here, right? So if you want to delve outside of crypto and beyond, then that's the section for you, right? Our other traders, of course, are doing a lot of crypto trades over here. We've been updating the market every step of the way. So here is, for example, FARTCOIN, which we'll look at in a bit. I just dropped that in Discord. So there's a link in the description below for those of you that want that. All right. Big, important chart. Very, very, very important. USDT dominance approaching the apex, right, of this triangle over here. So you can see it's been putting in those high lows, putting in those lower highs, and this is really decision time. We were looking to see, is there going to be yet another deviation? Is that a deviation? Well, if you're bullish, you're praying for this. You would be praying that there's going to be a deviation and this is going to drop down. If this drops down and can break this trend over here, then you know that the market is going to pump, right? But if this starts to close candles outside of this top side of the range over here, again, then this may be the deviation back into that part of the trend, which means you open up the possibility to trade all the way over here. Remember, that would be range low over there, mid-range, and that would be range high. So gaining acceptance, of course, above 4.73, 4.75, which is exactly where price is right now, or where the USDT dominance chart is right now, that puts a lot of pressure and risk on Bitcoin. And that's what could lead to playing out this Wyckoff distribution schematic, right? If USDT dominance does actually make a run for it and trade all the way back to the top side over here at 5.2, I think a lot of people are going to get heavily wrecked on the market, right? So I still believe, though, however, I still believe that this crypto cycle will not end until such time, at minimum, that until such time as USDT dominance trades down into this 4 to 4.3 region, at least something like that, right? But again, you can see a lot of inefficiencies that could be filled up over here. If this does run up over here and put in another high before breaking down, that's going to be your final flush within the crypto market. So something to pay attention to, food for thought, right? We're waiting to see what happens here next, which is why I'm personally taking a much more cautious approach to the market. I would rather be late into entering long positions with confirmation of a breakdown as opposed to losing money by gambling, right? Like this is gambling, right? This guy's going to lose again. I keep bringing it up because this is like biblical. It's unbelievable for the crypto space to see somebody run up, $100 million and absolutely wipe all of that, and then run it again with another $100 million account. Of course, that's considering leverage as well. The previous position size was $1 billion. Now this is $100 million, so 1/10 of the money, and I'm pretty sure it's going to get liquidated again, right? So therefore, I don't want to be in that boat. I would rather take a cautious approach and wait for a confirmed breakdown over here to actually drop this, right? I've made a lot already within this crypto cycle. I don't want to give up those profits. And some of the chop actually already made me give up some of the profits over the last couple of weeks. I'm sure some of you feel similar, right? You're probably getting absolutely rinsed and drawing down all of your profits with that chop. So I've taken the stance of rather being much more cautious and waiting for confirmations. Okay, total. Let's look at the total crypto market cap. If this USDT dominance breaks up, Bitcoin starts to distribute. Well, again, no guarantees that you're actually going to bounce here, but this theoretically is your bid zone. This is where you'd want to see major support found, right? So we covered this yesterday. That's going to be, again, just around that $3 to $3.1 trillion mark. If we look at total 2, Total 2 may come a little bit deeper into there. It came very, very, very close in terms of those candles. So you may drop one more time down into the 1 trillion on Total 2. If you look at Total 3, well, you're deep in that zone already, right? So I find it hard to believe that this is going to run out if Total 1 and 2 drop into those bid zones. It makes me think that, maybe Total 3 will actually lead into a breakdown. And we know that altcoins have been heavily wrecked, right? All you have to do is look at others against BTC, which is grinding down even further. And it's got about 32% down to go before it hits the key major range low, right? This is a significant range low over here for others. That's referring to the total cryptocurrency market cap minusing the top 10 biggest, right? And this is an interesting tweet, right? From you can see Art School Reject. Gotta love the name, Art School Reject, right? He says, yeah, this chart actually is baffling. Alts have gotten absolutely zero play. How did we even make money at all within the cycle? And you had to be super selective and 100% pick the correct things, because look at that. That is unreal. This is the 2016-17 on a monthly scale. When you're measuring others, which I said is all of the cryptos minus the biggest top 10. So it's looking at the medium to lower market cap coins. And this is what you saw in 2017. This is the run that you saw in 2021. This is 2024, 2025. So if this cycle ends early, I mean, it's going to be pretty brutal, because then alts are definitely not going to catch a bid. But if the Fed do pivot, go into QE, yesterday Trump was grilling Jerome Powell once again, saying too late Powell, right? Too late Powell once again. This is absolutely ridiculous. He needs to cut rates, right? He keeps saying that over and over again. So a little bit of a dogfight between the two of them. But if he does cut rates and they print hordes of money, maybe you can start to reverse this trend. All you need to know is you're not late. You just need to wait for a couple of green candles. And remind you, this is a monthly scale, right? So you just need like 1 month of a green candle and you can jump into an early trend and catch some life-changing gains over there. Until then, you need to be really careful. Focus on Bitcoin dominance, which if we go to over here, we spoke about the possibility of it rolling over, but we said we can't confirm anything until you start to drop this line over here. And so far, that's not happening, right? You can see already starting to put in a bit of a reversal candle over there, reclaiming some of those key zones, which would support the likeliness that you're probably going to drop a little bit further, at least down into the zone, right? If Bitcoin is going down, well, that's usually where Bitcoin dominance is going up, because people are not wanting to bid altcoins in a downtrending market, right? So cool. Let's keep an eye on that. Very important. Okay, liquidations still pretty low, 225. We're really looking for 500 to a billion to be considering that a lot of the leverage is flushed and it's ready to move in the opposite direction. We haven't seen that yet. Okay, we can have a look at some of the altcoins. ETH still doing pretty well. Let me know in the comments. And by the way, congratulations to the bunch of you that claimed your free ETH trade yesterday, right? $300 worth of ETH should have been deposited to those of you that opened up the Blowfin account. If you still want to take advantage of that, I think there may be a few more left, because it was limited to the first 200 people. I believe that was about 130 of you that did it yesterday. Use the link in the description below over here. If you sign up using that particular link, within 3 hours, they will give you the ETH. You can open up 20x position on that ETH trade over there, giving you $300 worth of ETH, right? And then you can use that as well to get into Whale School, the user ID extra bonus over there. We start in 11 days time. So let's have a look at some of the altcoins, right? The first one that I want to go to is FARTCOIN, because as we said over here, you can see it's already starting to bounce, right? This was down about 4% earlier on this morning. So let's have a look at FARTCOIN over there, see what's going on with FARTCOIN. Very close to major support. So, okay, I don't think it's really bounced. Maybe there's a discrepancy over here with the banter bubbles for today, because judging by this chart, this is still coming down pretty hard, right? So there's FARTCOIN, major zone, area of interest, between, I would say, as low as about 75 cents up to about 78 cents. That's going to be a super key zone. Time reinforces levels. So you can see over here, it's been a long time since this trend line has been tested. That will be really only the third test of that trend line, because you need 2 touch points to even create a trend line. Touch point 1, 2. So this is your third test. Third test with extensions in time reinforces a level, which means there's increased probability that you're going to put in a bounce over here. Again, all of this is taught in Whale School, right? If you're confused, go through over here to Whale School, use the 𝗪𝗏𝗪 sign up, deposit over there, get your $300 of ETH, and then you can come and join into Whale School as well, where I teach more of that. So that's the first thing. Secondly, you also have time over here reinforcing a level horizontally, which meets the as an area of confidence, right? So now you have a diagonal and a horizontal over there. So I would say high probability that even if this turns out to be continued bearish price action, you will get a bounce like that, right? So it's worthwhile bet. Work out the stop loss on your own and your position sizing, but I'm going to personally be looking for a bounce out of here, even if that is to lead into a lower high and continued distribution. I think that's easy money over there on FARTCOIN, right? All right, we'll have a look at a couple of the other coins. Let me know in the comments what else you want to have a look at. Hopefully, we're not going to look at all the same coins as every other time. So I see there's one that's slightly different, is Render. Let's have a look at Render. How is Render doing? Now, most of these things you should be viewing from a tradable perspective, right? You're just looking to get in and out, make your daily bread, make your money, and move on, right? Because of this, right? I've just shown you. You don't want to necessarily be an investor in these, in most of these altcoins, right? You're going to get very hurt. For the first time in a long time, we're seeing only one altcoin that's potentially turning that corner, and that's ETH, right? Solana had a good run as well. We played that all the way up, but I think ETH is actually going to outperform Solana, because we can have a look over here. Let me just bring this into view. This is also a pretty significant point, right? A pretty significant place for Solana versus ETH, right? I do actually think that this will bounce over here because it's a key level that's been reinforced with time. But that bounce is probably going to lead into a lower high. It might just look something like that, and then you're going to get distribution. So, if you're caught up in a soul trade over there and you're looking for better opportunities, watch for the rejection against ETH, probably following a bounce first at 0.067. Let's quickly see as a percentage what that would look like. Still pretty sizable, about a 15% move. Okay, let's move that on. Let's just take that back on the other side and get back into the question, which was Render. Okay, so Render, okay, key levels over here that I'd be focusing on, mostly focusing on strong horizontals. It looks like you could very easily come back into just below $3. So that is percentage-wise the key horizontal, the SR flip zone, another 24% down. All right. And it's got a lot of momentum towards the downside right now, so you probably don't want to be buying this over here. Very unlikely that this is going to turn a corner in this exact moment. Instead, I would say that this is probably going to accelerate as soon as it breaks this line at 3635. As soon as it breaks that, that's probably going to lead into the next move down into here, and then you'd be looking for a bit of a bounce out of that $3 zone. All right. What else, guys? Let me know in the comments. Say, sure, we can have a look at Say. Let's go to MOG first. I see there's a question around MOG as well. The reason why is yesterday we said MOG is like in a key zone. I think we said it needs to move right there, right? So weekly time frame. Okay, we said pretty significant zone for MOG because of this. This area over here, you might drop a little bit lower, but that's the area where you'd want to see MOG bounce. So if you're looking at the market for the first time on some of the low time frames as putting in a little bit of an uptrend with a high and high low, then these are the areas of interest. But again, I have to look at this and say it's similar to Render in the sense that I think that this is going to accelerate down into these zones. So I would wait for MOG percentage wise. That could be dropping as much as similar to Render, about 25%. And that should be where your major support should be found. Okay. Now I forgot the other one that we just mentioned before MOG. It was, let's just see, Say. It was Say. Okay, let's go back to Say. How's Say looking? Say already losing that key level, testing it as resistance pretty much into the zone over here, pink box over there, key level over here of in terms of an SR flip. So you can't be bullish on say until such time as it reclaims that. You need to get above the breakdown level, which was 23 cents. Otherwise, you stand the chance of moving all the way back down into key demand, which is around that 13 to 14 cent region for say. All right, 𝗪𝗡𝗡. Let's have a look at 𝗪𝗡𝗡. USDT. All righty. Okay, also just chopping about, I think we did bring this up yesterday, major range low. And again, based on the way these candles are forming over here, as soon as you take out this low, inevitably you're going to move all the way down into the pink box. That's about $5. Okay, $5 is the area of interest. So some of these coins that you guys are calling out are very, very fundamentally strong. They're like real projects doing real things. Like 𝗪𝗡𝗡, like Render, real projects doing real things. That means that if you do happen to actually get a turn of this, others against BTC, those can really, really give you those 50 to 100 X's. But I want to be super clear. You just don't want to be trying to buy the bottom all the time. Just wait for a reclaim of some key levels and some actual massive price action towards the upside to reverse the trend. Okay. Okay, 𝗪𝗡𝗡. Let's have a look at 𝗪𝗡𝗡. 𝗪𝗡𝗡 USDT. I don't know when last we looked at this one, but let's see if there's even anything on this chart. There is. We still do have some levels over here. Okay, which are still relevant. Alrighty. I mean, you can't buy this now. It's already pumped a lot. If this breaks down, it'll probably put in a pullback at some point. Then I would probably use some of the fib levels as well to just check for confluence. Okay, right now you're above the 50% level, which is great. I definitely personally wouldn't be buying this over here. I would have bought over here somewhere into the demand zone, very, very close to that upsloping diagonal that's in play over here. Otherwise, I'll have to be looking down towards range quarterlies, which I believe the next major range quarterly lines up with a pretty decent fair value gap, which you can see over here. Here's your fair value gap coming into play. There you go. So that's going to be a range quarterly simultaneous if you measure from the mid-range down to the range low. Where does the line up? About 186. So if I were to be a buyer, I'd want to see a bit of a pullback with Bitcoin into the zone. 𝗪𝗡𝗡 around that 180 to 186 region is going to be interesting for high low. Okay, I'm going to clean that up. I don't want too much mess on these charts. Alrighty. AVAX. Let's have a look at AVAX. Okay, AVAX, USDT. Remember, guys, take advantage of Whale School. That's where we can also discuss things in person. We do the live workshops, all of those kind of things. It will be great to see you guys there. Please do make sure that you join. The link is in the description below. And also, if you use the Blowfin account over there, that will gain you immediate access, not only into this school, but all of them. Remember, we have a whole series of different schools over there. AVAX is also just chopping about. I would expect it's probably going to revert all the way back down towards the range low, which is between 19 and 14 cents is going to be your area of interest. So you don't have any strong trend over here. This is simply chop, right? Price just chopping about. The real opportunities, I always try to highlight them to you. I think the opportunities of the day is probably going to be FARTCOIN. FARTCOIN into key support is going to lead to a bounce. That's the one that I'd be watching. And then remember, don't be scared to trade other markets, right? There's a lot of opportunity over here in trading things like Nasdaq. If you're trading things like Nasdaq over here, we're doing very, very, very well in Whale Room. Sometimes these are cleaner charts. Alrighty, guys, that's it from me. I will see all of you on the next one. I hope you have a great day. Let's not have it too long today. I'll do a lot more requests tomorrow. We'll use the whole show for chart requests. So get those ready, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a good day, and cheers for now.